Yes, folks. As you probably know, the Royal Commission of Inquiry into the Christchurch terror attack was released the other day. So what exactly does it mean? Well, in short, it means shut up and obey. Otherwise, you'll be labelled a white supremacist. Now, for me personally, I don't want Muslim immigration for two basic reasons. One, they don't assimilate into our culture very easily. And two, they have a massive track record of terrorism around the world. Now that truth will be deemed hate speech if Jacinda gets her way. Anyway, let's get started.
Kia ora, good evening. The Royal Commission of Inquiry has revealed that terrorist Brenton Tarrant was an abuser of steroids and testosterone who had planned his attack at the Christchurch mosques for months. But it says there was no way police, the Security Intelligence Service or any other agency could have been alerted to the massacre he carried out, killing 51 people on March 15th last year. The Prime Minister and other agencies have apologised for the many failings identified in the report, which has 44 recommendations. The report wants changes to the firearms licensing system that allowed Tarrant to amass his arsenal and says if risks identified 9 years ago were addressed, the attack may never have happened. The government will now bring hate speech under the Crimes Act, improve our counter-terrorism efforts and appoint Andrew Little as a new minister in charge of coordinating the government's response to the report. Juliet Speedy has more.
Deep in prayer today, where it all began. 22 months after one of the world's worst ever terrorist attacks, finally, an official apology. The Prime Minister.
On behalf of the government, I apologise.
Police.
We unreservedly apologise.
And the country's intelligence service.
To them, I apologise.
The report finds the biggest failing was the country's lax regulation of semi-automatic firearms, going as far as to say if the known risk had been acted on, it's likely there would never have been a terrorist attack that day. However, the Commission also finds there was no plausible way the terrorist plans could have been picked up by any public sector agency in New Zealand, except by chance. But some Muslim leaders believe that there were warning signs that were not picked up.
I personally feel that there are a lot of pieces of puzzle, and that has been missed.
The right process is followed, and they maintain the right process. It shouldn't have enough.
As a result of the Commission's findings, there are a raft of changes coming for the country.
A significant work programme to make New Zealand a safer and ultimately, I hope, a more cohesive country.
The 44 recommendations in the report have already been accepted by the government, who will roll them out in stages. They'll include amending hate speech laws and creating new hate-motivated offences, which include making it a crime to incite racial or religious disharmony.
Which means shut up and obey. Your opinion doesn't count anymore.
Extending counter-terrorism laws, including a new offence that will criminalise planning a terrorist attack. Andrew Little will oversee the changes and a new Ministry of Ethnic Affairs will be created. The community is hopeful, the action is swift.
We have 800 pages of words and now we need them translated into powerful action. This is a matter of national security.
Jacinda Ardern is once again taking aim at big tech after a particular piece of the report stuck out to her. It says the gunman told authorities his biggest source of inspiration was mainstream YouTube and not the far-right dark web. He said YouTube was, for him, a far more significant source of information and inspiration.
This is a point I plan to make directly to the leadership of YouTube.
Yeah, but don't worry about that, folks. YouTube is already buggered.
YouTube has announced from December 9th it will block and remove content that contains statements alleging widespread fraud or errors changed the outcome of a historical US presidential election. The Google-owned firm said it was because the safe harbour deadline on December 8th in the presidential election had passed, claiming that enough states have certified their election results. However, there are still outstanding legal challenges that could change the outcome of the election, including one in the Supreme Court. YouTube's statement made no mention of these, and it made no mention of the December 14th Electoral College vote date. The Epoch Times has not declared a winner of the election, but according to the California-based company, we will start removing any piece of content uploaded today or any time after that misleads people by alleging that widespread fraud or errors changed the outcome of the 2020 US presidential election in line with our approach towards historical US presidential elections. For example, we will remove videos claiming that a presidential candidate won the election due to widespread software glitches or counting errors. We will begin enforcing this policy today and will ramp up in the weeks to come. As always, news coverage and commentary on these issues can remain on our site if there's sufficient education, documentary, scientific, or artistic content.
Yeah, what exactly does that mean?
YouTube did not elaborate on the context it requires. The company then said it will guide people to authoritative information provided by corporate news outlets such as ABC, CBS, NBC, or CNN.
You've got to be kidding.
Over the past month since the election, those news outlets have provided little coverage of lawsuits or allegations of election fraud. The Epoch Times has reached out to President Donald Trump's team for comment. On Twitter, YouTube's announcement was slammed by conservative commentators who said the company is engaging in censorship. OANN's Jack Posobiec wrote, YouTube has declared you are now forbidden from criticising the government's handling of the election. Several weeks ago, OANN's YouTube channel was suspended and demonetised. The move is sure to draw the ire of certain members of Congress and Trump himself, who in recent weeks have suggested social media and tech companies should not have the protection of the federal Section 230 law.
Yeah, and I'm changing my opinion on this as well. I now think they should be stripped of the 230 liability protection because they are now content editors. This will allow unbiased platforms to come through.
Lawmakers from both Republican and Democratic parties have signalled the law should be rewritten or repealed, arguing it shields such firms from responsibility. Critics of the measure say it allows big tech firms to get away with censorship and make poor content moderation decisions. Many conservatives have said YouTube and other social media companies have engaged in censoring pro-Trump or conservative viewpoints. An October 2020 lawsuit filed against YouTube in California federal court said the firm repeatedly breached its own terms of service by deleting their pages or suspending them without cause and didn't tell them the reason why. The plaintiff's attorney, M. Chris Armenta, wrote in the complaint, plaintiffs remain baffled as to what, specifically in their content, led them to be part of the massive deplatforming, other than the commonality that they are conservative news channels with widespread audience reach.
The New Zealand Security Intelligence System was also criticised for inappropriately concentrating on the threat of Islamist extreme terrorism, with the last police assessment of extreme far-right groups 4 years before the attack. The community hopes addressing all of these failures will protect them and the entire country.
New Zealanders deserve a system that does its best to keep you safe, and that is what we are committed to building.
To hopefully avoid the atrocities and horror that unfolded in Christchurch on March 15th, 2019.
Well, kia ora, Juliet. The big question really, will the changes in this report be enough to stop another attack of this magnitude?
Ingrid, the short answer to that is no, and that's according to our intelligence services, who say that while this report can lead to an increased assurance that even if all 44 recommendations are implemented, that sadly that does not guarantee that an attack like March 15th will not happen again here.
Yeah, so why are they changing anything, especially laws?
Now, I put this to the Prime Minister and she said that no system in the world will be able to provide absolute assurance.
Juliet, they're live in Christchurch. Thank you.
Victims of March 15 are calling for more action to fight racism after the terrorist's deep links to white supremacy and the global alt-right were confirmed by the Royal Commission.
Brenton Tarrant would communicate his hate openly on Facebook and donated money to far-right YouTubers that radicalised him. National correspondent Patrick Gower reports.
Yana Izak expressing the pain still felt from March 15.
I cannot imagine that every day I wake up with tears and finding my son is not around.
Her son, Hussein El-Amari, one of 51 killed, the Royal Commission outlining some of the reasons why.
This book should be handled as a holy book for New Zealand.
A holy book that documents the terrorist's absolute hate, finding that he was a lone actor, but his thinking was affected by what was said in far-right online communities and other far-right material that he found on the internet. And for the first time, it has been revealed that this material includes prominent far-right YouTuber Stefan Molyneux, who tried unsuccessfully to speak to New Zealand audiences 2 years ago. The terrorist donating $138.89 to a podcast and YouTube channel by Molyneux.
Wow. The terrorist donated $138 to Molyneux, and that is somehow news, when Hunter Biden got millions from communist China.
Now, remember, Hunter Biden's lawyer had to, pull back on that, forced to walk back those remarks, clarify, Hunter has equity in the Chinese investments. According to the Johnson-Grassley Senate report, he got millions from a state-backed Chinese company, received $3.5 million, the wire transfer from the First Lady of Moscow, a Russian oligarch. Family got another $100+ grand for a shopping spree, compliments of a Chinese national. Hunter's company, about $140 grand from a Kazakh oligarch, earmarked for a very expensive new car. And who could forget his dealings with Burisma Holdings, with no experience in oil, gas, energy, or Ukraine. Imagine if Hunter's name was Don Jr., Ivanka, Eric, Barron Trump, Tiffany Trump. But the story gets even bigger. That is, Joe Biden appears to have been aware of all of it and let his son sell access to the office of the vice presidency. His family got rich. Here with reaction. He's done an amazing job on this and other issues. Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. So the investigation really has been going on since 2018. Your report has been devastating. And this goes back now, 2013, 14, 15, right?
Well, certainly that's when they started cracking the code. But there have been reports of the Bidens cashing in on the Biden name for many, many years. Dating back to when Joe Biden was a senator. But Hunter said he didn't get a cent. No, he got millions of dollars. Our report documents $5 million. We issued an addendum to our report showing about $6 million was paid into the accounts of Rob Walker, a business he controlled. And of course, Rob Walker said that he wanted to be a proxy or a surrogate for the Biden family. So there's $11 million from China.
Yeah, $11 million from communist China. And Molyneux got a whole $138.
November 18th, Senators Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson issued a joint report outlining the connections between the Biden family and the CCP. The report cited text messages from Tony Bobulinski, an ex-business partner with the Bidens, showing that Hunter Biden and Yi Jianming, founder CEFC China Energy, had a solid relationship. CEFC is effectively an extension of the Communist Chinese government, CCP, while Yi had established ties to the CCP, as well as the Chinese military. I've been talking to the chairman on a regular basis. I was his first guest in his new apartment. He cooked me lunch himself and we ate in the kitchen together. Hunter wrote in the disclosed messages. Biden added that Yi has me helping him on a number of his personal issues, including for staff visas and some more sensitive things. Tony also disclosed that the Bidens privately accepted $5 million from CEFC, which was supposed to be a common business funding. Besides the text messages, the report also cited disclosed emails and business proposals confirming the links between the Bidens and CEFC. In an email about the remuneration packages from the CEFC joint venture, Tony revealed that the big guy mentioned was Joe Biden. In addition, a photo of Joe Biden was featured in a CEFC business proposal for international expansion, with a section stating that Hunter Biden Biden's family and friends could be used to obtain special trade treatment. The business proposal also stated Hunter Biden as key in relationship setup and a bridge between two great nations. The two senators concluded the report noting that such relationships created counterintelligence and extortion concerns. Meanwhile, Joe Biden has repeatedly denied he had knowledge about Hunter Biden's business deals.
Yeah, right.
This online radicalization, a concern for victims today.
I mean, the terrorists misuse their social media in a bad way, so it's affected us directly.
The terrorists donated money to white supremacists around the world and openly posted on their Facebook pages, like one called Lad Society, where he said, "Across the road from my Dunedin gym is an Islamic boarding school. To date, I have been using it as a source of rage for my lifts," referring to his weightlifting, and his use of the internet prompting fear from Sarah Chasm, who lost her father.
As a high school teacher, I know well and good that the internet is such an influential tool, and to young minds, although it can start off as a joke and is something that you just do for a laugh and don't take too seriously, that can develop into true ways of thinking.
But his unusual behaviour wasn't just online. He travelled right around the world, including to many terrorism hotspots in the lead up to the attack. It drew no red flags whatsoever, and the Royal Commission found that he was abusing steroids. Doctors found him puffy and moon-faced from steroid overuse. He injected testosterone, purchased 500 hypodermic needles, but authorities have never found the source of the steroids. And when it comes to true evil, there is this: a to-do list before the attack, reminding himself to make Facebook posts such as "one like and I will burn down a mosque" before the last task that he set himself. 15th March is go, rain or shine.
Patrick, does the Royal Commission give any indication of how many white supremacists there are in New Zealand?
Yes, it says there are 1,700. Now they...
1,700, really? Where did they find 1,700?
Have been found since March 15. The police have gone and found them since March 15 because before then police and spies pretty much were not looking. Now this Royal Commission report in terms of white supremacy really builds on that picture of white supremacy and white supremacy online. But the important point here on that is that Brenton Tarrant, the terrorist, was actually interviewed by the Commission, and he is the one who has brought up that YouTube was actually the source of his inspiration rather than those hateful parts of the dark web. It was YouTube, which is much more out in the open, where Brenton Tarrant found the hate to do the attack right here. And if people really want that to be a holy book, that's where the government and the world needs to take the fight against white supremacy.
National correspondent Patrick Gow, thank you.
Well, in the years leading up to the attack, police and intelligence agencies were dismissive of the Muslim community, which had tried to warn them about the rise of Islamophobia and the far right. The Royal Commission found our spies had an inappropriate focus on Islamic extremism.
I wonder why. Yeah, now folks, I wonder why Patrick Gower didn't mention that Tarrant's political ideology aligns with communist China and that he considers himself to be an eco-fascist, promoting green nationalism and sustainable economics, etc. He's a greenie.